Hello, hello everybody. I'll get started. Hello. Thank you to everyone who's going to be joining, and thank you to everyone who'll be watching this later. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Tasha, and I have done a few Instagram talks now. So if there's any questions that anyone has, please ask away. It doesn't necessarily have to be on the topic that we'll be covering. So if there's anything you want to ask me, just ask. Let me just show you. I've got my cat, Giles, sitting next to me, also ready to answer any questions. So today, and hello everyone, thank you for joining. Today I thought, as it has been the Oscars ceremony, which you may have seen on the news, and we've also recently had something called the BAFTAs, which is the British Academy Film Awards, which celebrates all things to do with British film. I thought I could do a talk today on British film, British TV, how our news works, and yeah, I've got quite a lot of clips to show you, because you know it's fun to sort of see some classic English telly, which is what we call television. We just call it telly, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So for those of you who are joining now, please make sure you ask me anything. If you want me to explain anything further, just say. But let's get started. I'm personally really looking forward to this because I love movies, I love watching TV series, and I think as English people, we are very lucky. We've got some amazing TV shows. So let's get started. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is something called soap operas. Maybe give me a thumbs up or something if you've heard of a soap opera. And a soap opera is basically a long-running TV series, and in England we have two very famous soap operas, and I'm going to talk about them for a little bit. A soap opera, the word soap, as in give yourself a wash with some soap, when these TV series first came about, there were adverts for soap, so soap advertisements, and that's where we get the name soap opera. So a soap opera is a TV series, and it normally is sort of dealing with real life situations, but very dramatic, or you might say very over the top, like crazy. And I do have some clips to show you. So some of you might have heard of these shows, so let me just flip the camera around, and hello, everyone is waving, thank you very much. So if I spin my camera around, you may have heard of a soap opera called Coronation Street, and this is a classic TV show. Coronation Street has been around probably at least 60 years. And there's this really famous pub called the Rovers Return Inn, and Coronation Street is sort of about real life people. That's the idea behind it. So as we talk, I've got lots of clips that I want to show you. For some reason they've not linked, so let me just open it up. So I'm going to show you, oh, you can see, look, I was looking at dresses for the Oscars ceremony. Did anyone watch the Oscars? That's what sort of inspired me for this talk today. So just a little clip to show you what Coronation Street is, and it also gives you it's obviously not real, but it does give you a bit of a sense of English life. That's actually all I wanted to show you, because this is very classic English housing, all together, not separated. Probably would be, you know, working class families living on these streets. This is obviously a set, so it's filmed on this particular street. Not sure where it's filmed actually. And it's just a really classic soap opera. Now, I don't watch it anymore. I haven't watched Coronation Street since I was about 10 years old, maybe a long time ago. But it's like young children can watch it. It's called, we would say it's family viewing. So it's something that parents might watch with their kids in the evening. Obviously this show was back when we had 3 TV channels, and now, you know, we've got Netflix and YouTube. So I wonder if it's still as popular as it used to be. And the other classic TV soap that I saw a few of you put your thumbs up that you might know, is called EastEnders. And it's literally about people who live in the East End of London. So you've got the River Thames flowing through here, and it's called EastEnders because it's about people who live in the East End of London. Now, I have got a 2-minute clip that I'm going to show you because it is a real classic clip in kind of English shows. You may have heard this referenced before. It influenced quite a lot of shows later on. So I'm just going to show you this clip because you really get some great English accents and you get an idea of the drama of a soap opera. First of all, see, my cat's fast asleep there. I'm just going to turn my fire off because it's a bit loud. That's probably better. Okay, so get ready for the most dramatic 2 minutes you'll ever see. Oh, 1 minute 39 seconds. Okay.
Go on. I was going to tell everyone tomorrow, but I might as well do it now.
You're too young to have a secret.
Yeah. Shows what you know, doesn't it?
Let's hear it then.
I'm leaving.
Oh, no.
What? I'm leaving. Walford. Well, England. What are you talking about? Uncle Harry's asked me to go and work in his pub in Spain, and I said yes.
Oh, you are joking.
No. Did you know about this, Peggy?
Used to me. A great experience, that.
Yeah.
No, it won't. She ain't going.
Leave it, Kat. It's up to Dad, not you. Talk about it later, eh?
You can talk all you like. She ain't going.
You don't rule my life.
Look, just shut up and sit down, so.
No, you're always doing this to me and I ain't having it.
Stop it, the pill.
What's it got to do with you anyway?
It's got everything to do with me.
Kat. All right, I'll go on her stand now.
You ain't going anywhere.
Watch me. Kat, leave it. No, please, Kat.
Oh, no, leave them, Nan, leave them.
Zoe, come here. No, I'm afraid of you picking on me all the time.
I'm not picking on you.
Embarrassing me in front of everyone.
Just listen to me, will you?
I'm going. There ain't nothing you can do about it.
Do you want to bet? We go and I'll stand together, shall we? See who listens to.
Why don't you just leave me alone?
Because you're not going.
Yes, I am. Get away from me.
No, you don't rule my life. You're not going to Spain, and that's that.
Why not?
Because I said so, all right?
And after everything you say, do I?
No.
You can't tell me what to do. You ain't my mother. Yes, I am.
Whoa! So, what did you think of that? An absolute classic example of a soap opera, an English soap opera. Lots of drama, shouting, fighting. There's often murder and, you know, people cheating on each other, relationships breaking up. This is a really famous scene where the girl didn't know that this woman is her mother. She thought they were sisters. So I just thought I should share that with you because that is what soap operas are. This really dramatic, over the top, real life kind of stuff. So that's an English soap opera example for you. Coronation Street and EastEnders are still going today. People still watch it. Very famous. They'll probably watch it about 7 p.m. with a cup of tea, and it's on every week, all throughout the year, about 3 days a week. So, yeah, a good example there. And please, for those of you who are joining, if you have any questions, let me know. We're just talking about British movies today and British shows. So, like I say, I've got a few clips to show you, and I thought I'd start after telling you about soap operas. I don't think you can talk about English film without talking about something called Monty Python. Now, you may have heard of this. It's incredibly famous, and it's very English. I would say that, you know, for all of English people's flaws, so of all the things that maybe we're not very good at, I think English people have an excellent sense of humour, and I think that really comes across in our movies and shows. And if you came to England and you mentioned Monty Python to anyone, everyone would know what you were talking about. The Python phenomenon developed from television series, and it ended up being a stage show. There's loads of Monty Python films, there's music, there's books, and it's been compared to the Beatles, as in the influence that the Beatles have had, the music the Beatles has had on English, you know, culture. Monty Python is similar. It's absolutely huge, and it was first aired in 1969, and it's just very silly. It's a great thing to watch. Do you guys know what I mean by timeless? So if something is timeless, you could watch it in 1969 when it came out, or you could watch it in this year in 2020, and it still be just as funny. It doesn't really age, even though obviously it looks older. It ages really well. So I had to bring up Monty Python. Another really, really classic TV show that you probably have heard of is called Only Fools and Horses. And I have another little clip to show you. There were 7 series of this from 1981 to 1991, with some Christmas specials, which we quite often do as in England. We have TV shows like this, and then at Christmas there'll be a one-off special. And it's set in Peckham, which is in southeast London. So the only way to describe these guys, especially Derek, or Del Boy as he's known as, he's a geezer. That's the best way to describe him. And I am going to show you a clip, because you'll see when you hear. I'm going to be pausing the clip to talk about the language, because they use a lot of Cockney rhyming slang, a lot of just English slang in general. So let's watch maybe the first 30 seconds and then we can talk about it. And again, an iconic show. Only Fools and Horses, absolutely iconic. It really did express the feeling of the time in the country, you know, during the 80s or 70s, 80s, when people didn't have much money. The idea of the show, before I play the clip, is Del Boy, the main character. He's something we would call a grifter, meaning that a grifter always trying to find a way to make a bit of extra money. So it might be selling something really cheap that actually is, doesn't work at all. and there was a real feeling in this time of the 70s and 80s of, you know, people struggling financially and trying to find ways of making extra money. So let me just show you a bit of a clip, and I think you guys will love their accents. I mean, I do. Okay, here we go.
All right, Dale. Triff, Brill Rodders, had a blinding week. How about you? Oh.
Straight away, I don't know if you heard that, but he said, Brill Rodders, that's his name, Rodney, or Rodders, and he said, I've had a blinding week. And a blinding week means I've had a great week. So straight away, you get some real English language. If you're learning English and you want to learn, you know, something that's quite fun and uses slang, Only Fools and Horses is a perfect show to watch because it has all these amazing colloquialisms and expressions that I think you'll enjoy. So let's just watch a little bit more and just quickly look at Giles, fast asleep. Look how cute he is. Oh, anyway, back to Only Fools and Horses.
Fine. Could not be better. Sold those lawnmower engines yet?
Lawnmower. Oh, no. We've had lots of inquiries, obviously, but we're hanging on for the right price, you know.
Oh, well, that is the way, Rodney. Agent provocateur, as the French would say.
Well, that's what I thought. Oh, that reminds me. Did the paper boy bring my son this morning?
Well, we've had to cancel it, Rodney.
Cancel it? Why?
Well, you haven't paid your bill, have you?
So there we go. That's just a little clip to show you the dynamic of this family, these brothers, their dad, and they're talking about the Sun newspaper, and he's saying he hasn't paid his bill, so they've cancelled it, so they can no longer get this newspaper. And they also mention lawnmowers that they're trying to sell. So you might have heard the expression wheeler dealer. So it's similar to the word grifter that I was talking about earlier. A wheeler dealer is someone who's trying to do a good deal, like try and sell something but really cheap. They're a bit dodgy, you know, not quite criminal, but probably not quite legal either. So, I mean, again, Only Fools and Horses, one of the most famous shows in England. Even kids now will know what Only Fools and Horses is. So, yeah, I just wanted to talk about that. And there's one more sort of old school TV show that you may have heard of, called 40 Towers. And thank you for everyone who's listening to me ramble on. Please stop me if you have any questions or want to say anything or ask anything. So 40 Towers, again, set in a similar time, a very silly show. And Basil Fawlty, who's this guy, is an intolerant, so that means he's got no tolerance for people, no patience. So Basil Fawlty, an intolerant and rude manager, tries to run the hotel, constantly under verbal attack from his unhelpful wife, Sybil, and hindered by the incompetent Manuel, their Spanish waiter. So this show, it's very slapstick comedy. By slapstick comedy, I mean very silly, very over the top. An example of slapstick comedy would be someone walking into a ladder or falling over. You may have heard of Charlie Chaplin, you know, sort of the king of slapstick humour. And this show, again, it's aged brilliantly. It's really funny. Basil Fawlty, the manager, he puts on quite a posh voice. He's trying to act like he's posh, or meaning he's got lots of money and he's upper class, when really they're not. They're running this hotel, and it's a really funny relationship between man and wife. And let me show you a clip, because like I say, it's better to see it so you get an idea.
On the horses, Polly?
Oh, I don't. Only I was in the town and I passed the betting shop and I thought, well, why not?
Well, why not indeed, eh? Jolly good question, eh, dear? Oh, pity you didn't let me put something on, really. Realise how much we would have won? £75 for a £5 stake? Still, you know best.
So, I don't know if you heard that, but he said to her, which is his wife, "You know best, Polly, you know best." Sybil, I mean. And it's a very... it's a take on their relationship as a couple, that the woman is always right, which is true, obviously. But the woman is always right and he is always in the wrong. Let's just watch a few seconds more.
Those were the odds, were they, Basil?
Yes, that's right, there. 14 to 1. I listened in on the wireless just to make sure it had triumphed. Enjoy your winnings, Polly.
Thank you.
Polly,
Yes, Mrs. Ford.
what was the name of the horse?
The name? Oh. I've gone blank. Bird brain. No, that came in third. Fishwife.
What?
No, not fish. Small.
I think we'll leave it there. So really, really silly. You would get an awful lot if you watched Fawlty Towers. It really is an iconic show that's been around, again made sort of I think in the 70s, 80s. And some of the same actors as Monty Python, which we were talking about earlier. So like I said, I wanted to talk about those shows in particular because they really are very, very famous, very English. I think the difference, in my opinion, the difference between American shows and English shows is that English shows, there's a very dry sense of humour, or very sarcastic sense of humour. And I think American shows are a bit more in your face, meaning the humour is a bit more obvious, whereas English shows, it's often quite subtle or over the top and silly, like we just saw in that clip. So before we move on to talking about, I've got some information on children's TV shows coming up, and modern TV shows, so things that you might want to watch now that will help you with your English. But one thing I wanted to talk about as well is our news. So obviously we have, I'm sure you all have something very similar, but we have the BBC News, the British Broadcasting Corporation, and the BBC News has changed so much since it first aired. I think it was 1953 was around the first British broadcast, and I just wanted to point out the difference that, when we used to watch the news, the presenters would be men, for one. They would have very, very, very proper English, so very clipped English, like the Queen's English. And if you had an accent, like a northern accent or a Scottish accent or anywhere else in the UK, you probably wouldn't have been a TV presenter. Whereas now, TV presenters on the news are any ethnicity, any accent, from anywhere. I'm not actually going to show you some clips of that, but I just wanted to mention it because I think the the BBC News is sort of famous around the world. We have people who report from all over the world, and it's really, it is great. I think we're quite proud of the BBC as a nation. So back to I wanted to talk about children's TV. Now, I imagine children's TV is similar throughout the world, normally educational, trying to teach children something, normally fun and bright and simple. So I wanted to talk about a few English shows, children TV shows through the years. And please, thank you for those who've joined in. Please feel free to ask me anything. Hope this is interesting for you guys. So, children's TV shows. Now, I find this, as an adult, these puppets look quite creepy or quite scary. Let me just zoom. But this was a really lovely children's show called Rosie and Jim, and it was about two puppets on a boat, on a canoe, not on a canoe, sorry, on a barge, going up and down the River Thames with the duck. And that was all the children's show was about, and it was very sweet, but looking back, personally, I think rather creepy. Another great children's TV show that you may have heard of, Thunderbirds. This show, you can see there, again, they're puppets. So, before animation became cheaper to do, a lot of English shows were, and obviously the technology, we didn't have the technology that we have now. So puppets were a classic way of filming shows. Oh, this is a good question. Who is your favourite British actress? Oh, that's such a good question. Probably my favourite English actress would be Olivia Colman. You may know her. She's done a film called The Favourite, and she's also going to be playing the Queen in a series called The Crown. And she's also a really funny actress and woman, and she's been around for a long time. Great question, thank you. And please let me know if anyone else has any questions. Yeah, so there was a lot of puppets were used in children's TV shows. I also wanted to talk about a show that I really care about, because it was one of those shows that that we've had going for years, and it's called Blue Peter. And Blue Peter, if I can just show you this badge here, it's got a ship on it. I actually have a Blue Peter badge somewhere. And this show is a children's TV show, and it's such a lovely kids show. It's where you teach children to make something, so they might make some artistic creation, and they also do things for charity. And when, as kids, you always wanted a Blue Peter badge. So if anyone watching this has young children, find an old episode of Blue Peter. It is fantastic, and it's still going today. It really is. Another show using puppets is, and I've got a clip of this one, is called The Clangers. And this is a really nice show because there's not any spoken word in it other than the narrator. So these characters only speak in whistles. So I've got a clip to show you. I'm going to skip forward just to give you an idea. And this, I think this was, again, this show came out in probably about the 1970s. and it's nice. Let me show you.
This is the planet Earth.
So that's the narrator at the beginning. I'm just going to skip forward a bit. And this shows to me that language, you know, you can learn so much without any words. These clangers, these characters, they don't speak, they just whistle. And to me that just shows that you really can communicate in so many different ways. I'm sure those of you listening, you know, if you've been abroad or tried to do a lesson or whatever it might be and you can't communicate, you end up doing like using your hands and making gestures. And this show, The Clangers, shows communication with no words.
And that is another clanger. They seem to have a piece of rope.
So other than the narrator, they whistle at each other, and it's a very sweet show. I just wanted to share that with you. Another sweet show, which I'm not going to show you a clip of, is called Bagpuss. And it used to go, Bagpuss, oh Bagpuss, fat furry catpuss. And again, just a really lovely, lovely TV show. Now, for those of you who want to know about some modern English shows, we do have a show called The Crown, which I haven't watched, but I know many people that have, and they say it's fantastic. And this is the actress I was talking about earlier. This is Olivia Colman, who is just a beauty in every sense. She really is. And for those of you who are English, who are interested in learning about the English monarchy and learning about the history of English, you know, the royal family, I've got a list. So the first season is about Queen Elizabeth and Philip, about their marriage in 1947. Then the second series is about the period from 1956, and it's all about the Suez Crisis, and it's also about the birth of Prince Edward in 1964. So this TV show, it's like, we would call it a historical drama. So it's a drama. It's not, you know, it's obviously acting and set and dramatised. However, it's really based on true events, and it's quite true to history. And the third season is between 1964 and 1977 and introduces two periods of prime ministers and Camilla, who's the Duchess of Cornwall that you may have heard of. The fourth series will be about Margaret Thatcher, who was an English prime minister in the 80s. And the fifth and final season will cover the Queen's reign into the 21st century. So for those of you who love learning about English royalty, please watch The Crown. Also, oh my goodness, the costumes are unbelievable. The dresses, what the men wear, all the jewellery. If you're into that, 100% recommend it. You can't go wrong. And that also, you may have heard, now one of my students actually recommended this show to me, and I tell you, I got very addicted to it. This is also a historical period drama called Downton Abbey, but it's fictional, so it's not real, and it's set on a country estate in Downton Abbey, and it's set between 1912 and 1926, and it's all about the lives of aristocratic family called Crawley. So a very wealthy family, lord and ladyship, and it really talks about the English class system, and it does it very well. So, you know, again, you've got amazing outfits, they're fabulous, but it's all about these two and their family. He's the lord and she's the lady, but it's also about, you know, servants and people who have to work under the rule of others. And about the rights that women had. So again, Downton Abbey, there's a movie, but there's also a TV series. So that's a great English show. I wanted to talk about a fairly modern show called Peep Show. And this is a really, again, it's sort of a modern day Fawlty Towers in a way. It's based on two men, very dry British humour. You might notice, you know, they're not the most attractive men in the world. They're really just two English blokes, and it's called Peep Show because it's filmed from their perspective. So the camera is like you're looking out from their eyes. It's very clever. It's a really great show. Now to talk about some English movies. This one I'm about to talk about is not for children, but I'm not going to go into too much detail. So you'd have to be an adult to watch this film, and it's called Trainspotting. You may have heard of it, and it's set in Edinburgh, which is in Scotland, and it's all about some young people in the 1990s struggling with a heroin addiction. I'm not going to show you a clip because I don't know if there's any children watching, but again, it really is a classic English film based on a book by James Irvine. Couldn't recommend it enough, but adults only, and it's an amazing film, but it's not nice to watch as well. It's quite heavy. It's quite emotional and quite sad. So if you're going to watch Trainspotting, just be prepared. You might cry, and it's quite stressful. I mean, obviously, I could talk about English films. There are thousands and thousands of amazing English films throughout the years, and so I've just tried to pick out a few of my favourites. And hello again to everyone who's listening. Thank you. Pause there. Hello, I'm back again. And please, if you have any questions, doesn't have to be about British film. Please just let me know. Another film I wanted to talk about is so lovely. You may have heard of there's a ballet or a musical in London called Billy Elliot, and it's all about a boy wanting to be a ballet dancer, and it's set, I think it's in Liverpool, so it's sort of northern England. Boys were not really allowed to do ballet. It's set during the 80s. Again, when there was a lot of money problems, there was the miners who were striking. Lovely film, really great English movie. So I'm giving you all my recommendations, guys, because they're just so good. I do have a clip of this. This film is called The Railway Children. And as you can see from the picture, it's a very old movie, and again, very, very sweet. I am going to show you a clip of this one because it is just a really sweet English movie that you may or may not have heard of. And again, it's aged really well, even though it looks old. The story is very nice, so I am going to show you. And I've got a good question here. It says, before I play this, hey, how do you think does changing programs help foreigners? Changing programs, or I'm not sure what you mean. I'm thinking about this kind of program. I'm not sure what you mean, but if you're talking about watching different programs, I would say it helps because, you know, if you watch a variety of English shows, you get so much different language. so, you know, for example, Only Fools and Horses, which I was talking about earlier, is very lots of slang, some Cockney rhyming slang, and you also get the Queen's English and shows like The Crown. Oh, Programme of Exchange. Oh, okay, sorry, I'm just exchange students. Oh, yes, sorry. So exchange people who do exchange, you know, exchange between countries. I think it's a fantastic way to learn English. If you're immersed in the culture, however briefly, I think it really helps. And I've also got someone saying that their daughter is reading The Railway Children in English, which is great. So please show them this clip. It really is such a sweet movie, and I will talk about exchange students in just a minute as well. And let me show you this clip first, and then I'll come back to you on exchange students. The old English steam train there.
It was like a great dragon tearing by. A dragon's house looks like that tunnel. I never thought we'd ever get so near to a train as this. It's better than toy engines, isn't it? Don't know. It's different. It seems so odd to see all of a train. It's so tall. I've always seen them cut in half by platforms. I wonder if that train's going to London. London's where Daddy is. We don't know that, Phil. He might be.
Thankfully, we still have a lot of English countryside, so if you do visit, you can still see steam trains go by, although I wouldn't recommend walking on the tracks. So in that movie, basically, those children, some debris falls on the tracks. So by debris, I mean like it's like a landslide. So like trees and rocks fall on the tracks, and the children save the day. Again, it's just so lovely. Oh my goodness, it's such a lovely movie. So I'd really recommend it. And let me just quickly go back to someone's question about exchange students. I know I don't know how popular it is in Russia. I don't think English people send, I'm not sure, I don't know a lot about the exchange student programme and how they work. However, I would say, you know, if a student comes to England for 1 week or 2 weeks or longer, and they're in a school and they're listening to the language, or they're just out in England and they're practicing their language, I think that would really help, because you really, the more you hear it, or the more you're exposed to English, obviously the easier it's going to be to learn, which is partly why I wanted to show you all such a variety of TV shows and films, because that is another great way to learn the language, and to learn how different it is, how versatile our accents are, as it is everywhere. So please, any more questions, please just let me know. I really appreciate it. Another TV show that I don't watch, but my mum and my sister love this show. It's been going for probably maybe 10 years. Has anyone heard of the Great British Bake Off? Or does anyone know what this might be about? Because this is basically this lady called Mary Berry, who, I mean, look at her. I think she's like 80 years old. What a babe. So gorgeous. And here you've got a classic English tea, afternoon tea. You've got some cakes on a tier. Anyone who watched my food talk the other week might recognise this. Oh, and good question. Have I watched The Crown? I haven't watched the TV series The Crown, but it is on my list. In fact, you know what? I'm going to start it after this talk because I haven't seen it and everyone says it's amazing and it looks beautiful. So I am going to watch it. So this TV series in England, I've got to talk about this. It's like a phenomenon. During the last 20 years, we have so many programs about baking and food. Do you guys have this in Russia? Or wherever you might be listening to this from? Do you have a lot of like cooking shows? Because in England, there are so many shows about food. It's become like, you can't turn on the TV without seeing some cookery show. And the Great British Bake Off is all about amateur chefs or cooks or people who just like bake in their kitchen at home, going on this programme to try and win and be the best baker in the country. And it's when we talk about baking, we mean like cakes and things like that. If you're into food, watch the Great British Bake Off. I mean, you will love it. It is very, everyone in the country goes crazy. They love it. So I would recommend that. Some of my favourites are Black Mirror, Black Mirror is a TV series. It's very, very dark. So it's all about technology and how it will change the future. Very good English series. You may have heard of Doctor Who. Not something that I'm into, but people love it, about someone who can time travel. It's a sci-fi, so science fiction. Blue Planet is probably our nation's favourite, David Attenborough. It's all about the Earth. The IT Crowd, a very, very funny comedy. Very, very English humour, very dry, very silly. Skins was sort of a show for teenagers. And The English Office. You may have heard of someone called Ricky Gervais. I'm going to show you a clip of The Office. It also gives you a great idea of what it's actually like to work in an English office. Now, I used to work in an office probably about 10-15 years ago, and I don't know how work is over where you're listening to this from, but office work in England, it can be quite boring, in my opinion. I'm sure many people would enjoy it. So people do things like...
Right, that is it. Slow down.
They prank each other. And by prank, I mean they might do a practical joke. And this TV series, The Office is called a mockumentary, meaning it's a documentary that mocks itself. So it makes fun of itself. So it's not real, they're all actors, but it's sort of filmed as if it were a real documentary. And this really is an unbelievably, I mean, in my opinion, The Office TV show is the best comedy show that's ever existed. It's so funny and so clever, but also it's cringy comedy, meaning, you know, when you can't watch something because it's so awful. Like, for example, I don't know, a boy asking a girl on a date and she says no, and you get embarrassed, like you're cringe, you're embarrassed for them. So it's a very embarrassing TV show. I'm just going to show you a quick clip of The Office because it's fantastic. Really recommend it.
You moved too fast. Solomon's here. All part of the job. What's going on?
Put my stapler inside a jelly again. That's the third time he's done it. It wasn't even funny the first time.
Why has he done that?
Told him once that I don't like jelly. And trust the way it moves.
Yeah, you showed him a weakness. He pounced. You should know about that. Oh, what is it then?
It's my stapler.
Well, don't do that. Well, eat it out. There's people starving in the world, which I hate. So, and it's a waste. So, how do you know it's yours?
Because it's got my name on it in Tipex.
Yeah, don't eat it now. In chemicals.
Right, you can be my witness. Give him an official warning.
How do you know it was me?
It's always you. Can't you discipline him?
Oh, kinky. No.
So I'm very curious if anyone has seen The Office. Please tell me if you do, because I don't know how well it will translate to other cultures, if other people find The Office funny or if it's just a really English thing. Ricky Gervais, who you may recognise, he has done lots. He is the king of British comedy and British television. And he was probably very much inspired. I'm just going to talk and show you one more clip. And this, I imagine if you've ever been to an English lesson, you might have done something on Blackadder. So Blackadder would have been a real inspiration to many, many TV shows. And it's a very, very, very silly but clever comedy. And I'm going to show you one more clip and then I'm going to talk to you. And if you have any questions, we've got 8 minutes to go, so please let me know. Now again, Blackadder is very funny, very British, and it's a great way to learn English. There are so many interesting phrases. It's a great, it's just fantastic. It's very funny, very silly. So I'm just going to show you and see what you think.
As for your basic training. Crikey, I'm looking forward to today. Up diddly up, down diddly down. Whoops, poop, twiddly dee. Decent scrap.
I'm just going to play that to you again because I think it's brilliant.
Looking forward to today. Up diddly up, down diddly down. Whoops, poop, twiddly dee. Decent scrap with a fiendish red baron, bit of a jolly old crash landing behind enemy lines. Capture, torture, escape, and then back home in time for tea and medals.
George, who's using the family brain cell at the moment? This is just the beginning of the training. The beginning of 5 long months of very clever, very dull men looking at machinery.
Hey, girls, look at my machinery! Enter the man who has no underwear!
So, the series is set over different periods of time. And obviously that's set during the First World War, which you might be able to tell from the uniforms. So yeah, that is sort of my overview of English. I mean, we have some, you may have heard of, gritty. We have some really gritty TV shows as well, but I didn't want to talk about that too much. So some shows that are, like hard to watch, can be quite sad. There's a movie and a TV series called This Is England, and it shows sort of the worst things about England but also the best. So again, the humour, the sense of community, but also the poverty and the challenges that people face. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed watching me talk about all these different shows. Like I say, there are so many good. I mean, if you just put online, just Googled best TV shows, British shows, so much will come up. So for the last 5 minutes, I'm just here, you know, if you've got any questions, anything about England or anything you want to know about, please let me know. I'm just going to spin the camera and just show you my cat again because he's just been so cute. Look at him. Oh, so lovely. His name is Giles and he's nearly 2 years old, and his breed, he's a ragdoll. So it's their type of breed is ragdoll. Oh, I've got a good question. How often do you go to the cinema? Well, my boyfriend used to work at the cinema, so we used to go all the time because we used to get free tickets. Unfortunately, he doesn't work there anymore, and the cinema in England is so expensive. To go to a movie, it would probably be, I think it's about £10, which is quite a lot. So I don't go to the cinema often. We have cinemas in England where you can dine, so you can have dinner whilst you're watching a movie. But most cinemas, same probably as everywhere, you get all the adverts for the new shows and then all the new trailers, and then you watch your movie. Yeah, so I don't get to go often, unfortunately, and I love going to the cinema. Do you guys go to the cinema often? And what do you watch TV shows on? Can anyone tell me, do you watch it on Netflix? Do you buy DVDs? We've still got DVDs, my boyfriend and I, because he used to buy them lots. In fact, why don't I show you some of the DVDs I've got, because I might have some more classic English recommendations. So, let me just get on the floor. We don't have a lot of space in my house, so everything's squeezed in. So this is where we keep our DVDs. Let me just see if I've got anything English to show you. A lot of them are American movies. I think that's the thing now, isn't it? Is that you've got so many great American TV shows as well. Probably the only other English thing, and this is my boyfriend's favourite guy of all time, is a guy called Alan Partridge. Again, English comedian, British humour, very silly. Movie called I, Partridge. Would very much recommend. But I think everything else that I've got is American. Yeah, so we don't really have many DVDs. We mostly watch things online now, I guess. You can download a movie. And Mrs. Sheena has said, I like Jamie Oliver videos about cooking, and I used his recipe for English scones. Oh, amazing, amazing. I love Jamie Oliver. He is the best. And his food is amazing. I like to use Jamie Oliver as well. Mary Berry, who I was talking about earlier, I'd recommend her. She's got cookbooks, recipes online, and she is very good. She's all about baking cakes. Yeah, so if there's anything else that you would like to hear about or learn about, please send us a message. Thank you very, very much for everyone who's listened and who's asked questions, and I really enjoyed learning as I was doing the presentation, learning about English film and TV series. They're really, I really love English cinema. We're very lucky. So please go ahead and look back at this video and maybe try some of my recommendations and let me know what you think. And I'll be back next week. And until then, take it easy. Have a great week. I hope it's not too cold. Oh my goodness, we had terrible weather, big storm, but it's not too bad now. Anyway, peace and love, and see you soon. Bye bye. Oh.